Now we bring in a man who played in the NFL for a decade and a half, a baller, a multiple-time Pro Bowler, DeAngelo Hall, former NFL great defensive back. Okay, I said the city of Chicago must hate me because I said DeAngelo all year. I don't buy Chicago. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all David Copperfield on offense. I just don't buy it. Trubisky's gotten better. He's better than I thought. But I don't think the NFL is best served, a team with its 10 best players all on one side. I don't think Chicago ever looked like a Super Bowl team. I'm not saying you can't have great defenses. But you got to have.
Yeah. I mean, it was times when I watched Chicago play, I'm like, man, they have playmakers on offense, though. Let's be real.
I like
Taylor Gabriel is a really good playmaker. Tariq Cohen is a good playmaker.
Good. They're not special.
They have some receivers who can get open and make plays. And Trubisky has, I mean, he looked really good at times. But you're right. At the end of the day, this offense is a running-first offense and a very, very good defense. And the way the league is constructed now, it's really hard to win Super Bowls that way. You have to score points because that's where all the rules are kind of course, shifted toward. You know, these pass interference penalties where you can't touch the DBs, you can't you can't touch the receivers, you can't hit a defenseless receiver and really
changes the game.
Him. Yeah, a lot of these great safeties, like we used to go into games when I was a young guy, trying to intimidate that receiver or that offense. Let's hit him in the mouth. We're going to intimidate. He come across the middle. We're going to take his head off. You can't really do that.
Oh, no, not really.
So,
you can't do it.
You can't do it. And
Period.
so guys are like, receivers are stress-free. And that did not used to be the game of football at all. And I understand why, but that's what makes it hard defensively to win Super Bowls and be great like they used to do.
Well, think about this. The year started and we all freaked out. There's too much offense. It's the Big 12. It's Canadian football. But I kept telling, pump the brakes. The weather gets crappy. This weekend, Foxborough is going to be 28 degrees and snowing. In the end, if you didn't tweak the rules to favor offense, the games would all be 9-7.
Yeah, and that would make for boring TV.
It'd be terrible. I mean, the first half of the Cowboys-Seahawks and the first half of the Eagles-Bears was brutal. Yeah. Because it's hard to score. I mean, years ago when you played, you could literally grab a strong guy like you could grab a receiver.
Yeah, throw him to the ground.
I mean, think about that.
Or fight with him through the course of that route. Now you got 5 yards. If your hands ain't off, that ref could throw the flag. It's so subjective from time to time. And you have some refs that'll talk to you through the course of the game.
Yeah.
Hey, if that ball was coming over here, that was a flag. Watch those hands. And so it's so subjective. But any given play, you can touch a guy, and that can be a first down.
Let's talk about the Cowboys. When I watched that game, I thought this weekend I was pretty lucky on my picks, but I said Dallas has more good players. Now, Bobby Wagner's a beast, and Russell Wilson's amazing. Doug Baldwin, I think, is elevated largely by Russell Wilson. He's never that open.
Doug Baldwin is a better receiver than I thought initially he was. He's a damn good receiver.
But when I watch the Dallas Cowboys play, Dallas loaded. Dallas got great players everywhere. O-line, running back, wide receiver, Jones the corner, two best young linebackers. I almost think Dallas underachieved this weekend. I think Dallas has significantly better players than Seattle.
They probably do to a man, but that Seattle team is just like Russell Wilson's leadership and just what some of those guys, even Bobby Wagner. You think about that old Legion of Boom and that style of defense that they played. Some of those guys are still there. And so that culture and just that ability to, hey, we've been here before, that's value. That's value. No one on that Dallas roster can say we've been there before.
Right.
There's a lot of guys on that Seattle roster that can say that. And Seattle overachieved this year. Let's be real. We all had Seattle winning 6 games this year. And so for them to even be where they were was a testament to that staff and those guys. But nobody expected Seattle to even be there. That's why I like this Dallas win, but I'm not overly impressed because, Seattle was playing great, but they're a running football team as well. I heard y'all talking about the Ravens. They're a running football team. They have a really good quarterback who can make plays with his feet and extend plays. But they led the league in rushing, and Dallas stopped the run for the most part. They 73 yards.
Let's go to the Chargers beating the Ravens. A lot of people are talking about Lamar Jackson. I personally would not have sat him. I think once you make a commitment to a Trubisky, a Lamar Jackson, a running quarterback, you make a commitment. You just can't yank a guy in the third. What do we make of the Chargers, though? Because you and I sit there and watch that game, and they dominated it for 3 hours. Mm-hmm. And they held on for dear life. They're going to New England. Do you trust the Chargers?
And it's almost not even to the point that I don't trust the Chargers. It's just, it's New England, man. And I know they haven't looked like New England, but it's that pedigree. It's that DNA that at the end of the day, they're still New England. And so I just think they'll figure it out. And so I think the Chargers are playing really good, and you said they look like they were holding on. That's the problem. A lot of coaches, they get up and they change.
Yeah, they got real conservative late.
They get super conservative. They get in these prevent defenses not to let the big play happen to you, but by doing that, you become soft up front. And then, Baltimore is able to do some things that they, probably wouldn't have had success doing early. And so as players, you're like, coach, man, keep your foot on their throat. Let's keep it going. But as a coach, you're like, man, I don't care about no stats. I just want to get out of here with the win.
Now, the Chargers will have to go home. They go on the road again. Do you worry about fatigue for the Chargers?
I don't. A lot of people on the outside look at that and say, hey, well, we have to travel 2 days. And it does wear on you a little bit, but mentally and physically, you just want to get ready for this football game. And you'll do everything through the course of that week. You'll leave one day earlier. You'll leave on a Friday.
You can study on the plane.
Yeah. You'll leave, a day before, like a Friday if you play Sunday instead of leaving Saturday when you have a close game. So I think and the Chargers being in LA, they're used to West Coast games. It's not like a team or East Coast games. It's not like a team who's never done it before and like, oh, we got to do this for the first time. They've probably came to the East Coast 3 or 4 times this year. So they're used to it, and so I don't really put any weight into that. But the Chargers look good at times. I was never one of those people who had them as a Super Bowl pick, but I did have them as a team that in the playoffs, if they got hot, could scare some people because, like you said, you can't just have all your talent on one side of the ball.
They got talent everywhere.
They have talent
loaded
everywhere.
No, I contend the Chargers have the most good players in the NFL.
7 Pro Bowlers,
and you could argue you could have argued they deserve 2 more. Finally, Wentz Foles.
Oh, I'm getting cussed out on Twitter
Nick Foles
already.
is a backup.
I'm getting cussed out on Twitter already.
He's a backup.
Colin, you say he's a backup, but can you have this conversation if Nick Foles goes into New Orleans and wins? And they're playing in the NFC Championship game.
It'll be a harder conversation.
What about if they make it to the Super Bowl?
It'll be a
what are we talking about here?
Isn't stock market about buying low and selling high?
But I'm almost to the point because they gave up a lot for Carson Wentz. I'm almost to the point, and Nick Foles is 29. He'll play till he's 40, the way all these quarterbacks play nowadays. And like I said, I'm getting cussed out on Twitter by Philly fans already, and so I'm just like, at some point, if Nick Foles can create that magic that we've seen these last couple of weeks, like we seen last year, and get this team to another Super Bowl,
it's going to be hard. I will say this:
I'm probably trading Carson Wentz.
Oh Lord!
Because I can't get the value for Nick Foles, and he's won me 2 Super Bowls, and he's still relatively young in quarterback worlds, and I can get a whole lot for Carson Wentz.
God,
and I gave up a whole lot for Carson Wentz.
It is if he goes to New Orleans.
And so,
oh my God,
it's going to create for a great offseason because I can't wait to see what happens.
Can you imagine if Foles goes to the Dome? And by the way, 375 yards against.
I give him like a 5% chance.
By the way,
and if they can pull that out.
And Wentz went to New Orleans this year and got
47. Yeah.
Oh God. This is why you pay general managers.
Yeah. They got a tough decision to
make.
They
do. And I will say this. When Foles plays, Alshon Jeffrey and Foles have a real relationship where Wentz feels very reliant on Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
When Nick plays, it feels like Alshon Jeffrey and Nick Foles. It just happens. Sometimes quarterbacks, Brady and Gronk for years, Brady and Edelman for years.
Had that chemistry.
They had a certain chemistry. All right, DeAngelo, great having you on.
Appreciate it.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.